This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Computer, begin recording. Welcome to We Are Starfleet, your podcasting mission through the Star Trek universe. From the original series to Strange New Worlds, we're exploring every corner of Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek vision, where science meets humanity and hope leads the way, except in the movie event that we are going to be talking about. My name is Mike Slamer, and rounding out our bridge crew, because we do have names, is Craig McKenzie, Ashley Thomas, and Ian Buckley. And guys, this is year 5 of our podcast. We've been doing this since 2020.
Ooh.
Dang.
Yeah. So
The world has not changed one bit.
No.
Well,
I think me and Ashley are like 2 years.
yeah, 2-3 years, something like that. I think, we guessed it here and there.
Here and there.
I know I started podcasting with y'all around 2021, maybe early 2022. So
Yeah, I mean, you guys were such good guests that you just became hosts of this show. And so thank you. Welcome everyone. If you are joining us for the first time, this is We Are Starfleet, and our focus is to try and stay pretty positive on all of the episodic discussion. There's a lot of content, a lot of media out there that just wants you to hate on everything, and we are here to deliver some constructive feedback and criticisms, because there's always space for constructive feedback. Now, let's kick off this 2025 podcast season here with the new movie event that is streaming on Paramount Plus, Section 31. I don't really know how to start the conversation, so I'm going to do what I call the host privilege and pass it over to someone else to start the conversation. And I'm going to pick someone at random. Ashley, you're smiling. You're like crazy over there. So I'm going to get you.
all right. I titled my review on Fangirlish Star Trek 30 Section 31, sci-fi style over Star Trek substance. And I try to take, when I'm reviewing stuff, who is this for is kind of the question I want to ask, because it's easy to go off and say, bam, I hate this, or bam, I love this, and I just was kind of like, well, that was a sci-fi movie. I don't think it was a Star Trek movie. I'm not even totally sure it was a real Section 31 story either, but I did find some things to like in it. So I'll just start as Michelle Yeoh. Nobody's mad about Michelle Yeoh. If they are, I have questions for you. Please explain. But I liked Michelle Yeoh. I always like Michelle Yeoh. She's, you get opportunity to see her showcase her physical performance. She's a skilled martial artist. She got to do a lot of cool stunts, cool fight scenes, looked great in everything. I want to look half as good as Michelle Yeoh does when I'm 62. That's going to be the goal. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh worked for me in this Section 31 movie. Ian, did Michelle Yeoh work for you, or did anything work for you in this movie?
She did, but I think the question was a sort of general, like, what is this movie? What was it supposed to be originally? Like, I think if we unpack that a little bit,
That's probably a better place to start. Yeah.
That could be a good entry point, kind of big
Yeah.
picture, and then we can get into specifically like what we liked and what we didn't about
All
it.
right. Well, let's
Broad.
cut everything I just said out.
No, not at all. I just think it works to start from like big picture.
Good.
What was this movie originally? Section 31 was originally kind of in the Star Trek, the new Star Trek era ether as a series in its own right that was going to showcase Michelle Yeoh and maybe have some of the other Section 31 people that we'd seen in Discovery pop up as well. The details were always pretty vague. It was a show that, I'll be pretty honest, I think a lot of the fandom felt like nobody had really asked for, and didn't really feel like anyone was excited about or wanting. But especially once Michelle Yeoh won an Oscar, it seemed like, well, this is definitely going to happen in some form now. They have to do something with Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh, to your point about her. And I guess in the end, the compromise was, and it's hard to know exactly what happened behind the scenes, was we're going to turn this series or limited series or whatever they originally intended to do with it and turn it into basically a TV movie event. We get this 90-minute, it's not particularly long, but it is feature length. It's a self-contained story. So we get this 90-minute self-contained story that very clearly has the DNA of a TV pilot woven throughout. And it does feel a bit of a strange in-between creature here in the Star Trek universe, where it's definitely not a series, it's not a mini series, it's not quite a pilot, but it feels more akin to a pilot than to anything else, and it does feel very much of a piece with other bits of media that have gone direct to streaming, where it doesn't really have like a broad theatrical cinematic scope that we come to expect from a Star Trek movie, even some of the lesser ones. So it does feel a little confined, a little constrained, but it's essentially a kind of a TV movie of the week back when those were a thing, kind of in feel and in production value, if I'm being honest.
Cool.
Craig.
I have nothing really to add. Yeah, it used to be a TV show. Now it's a film. Michelle Yeoh won an Oscar, so I think it got quietly uncancelled because I feel like it had been quietly cancelled at one point, as in there's no enthusiasm for this. Let's not make it. And then she wins her Oscar, and someone asks her, "Are you still interested in that Section 31 thing we were going to do?" And then she inexplicably said yes, and now this exists. That's why it exists, because Michelle Yeoh wanted to do it. I don't think they would have bothered otherwise.
Unless there was some weird contractual obligation where something had to be produced. Like I said, we'll probably never know the exact behind the scenes nitty gritty of how this ended up being presented in the form we got, but something had to be done once she won that Oscar, I think.
Yeah. What I will say is if this story was a TV series, it's one that I would probably have given up on a couple episodes in. I don't think I would have stuck with it because I found watching this 100 minutes hard enough.
It was a rough watch, and it really comes down to, what I feel is the only answer is that Michelle Yeoh wants to be a part of the Star Trek universe. She did a late night interview with Stephen Colbert, and she talked about loving Star Trek and wanting to be a part of it. And during the press tour, she has talked about how she pitched a Philippa Georgiou spinoff even before Discovery got started filming. Like, she's been pushing to have something in the universe because she loves being a part of Star Trek. And she did not want to be just a one-off character that gets killed. So it definitely felt like the producers, Alex Kurtzman was, extending the olive branch, being like, we're going to give you your own show. We're going to give you your own show. And then how they work that out, that's really questionable. And it really felt like everybody was forcing the show. Like, it does not feel like anyone involved with the production of it, what we saw on screen. Everything feels very much like we're here to collect a paycheck. Let's do it. Let's have fun, with the exception of the core cast, who felt like they were in it to win it. And that's why I'm like, this has more going for it than it doesn't. But unfortunately, it's encased in all of this Star Trek stuff, and we want Star Trek from it, but it just isn't. And so therefore we're not crossing that bridge. We're not getting the satisfaction from it.
It's interesting what you say about Michelle Yeoh pitching the spin-off before they started filming Discovery, because her appearance in those couple episodes of Discovery that started off the show was a very different point in her career, because some point after that she suddenly became very bankable, and obviously there was projects listed to the ceiling on her desk probably. So it seems like it was Discovery was getting in before she went huge. It's almost the Kirstie Alley effect, isn't it? She was in Wrath of Khan and then she became really famous afterwards, but they had her first, so to speak. Even though Michelle Yeoh has been around for decades and she almost had a Bond spin-off and all this stuff, but this particular moment kind of came out of nowhere, it seems. And then, you know, she was in Discovery and then suddenly she was everywhere.
Yeah.
And now she is where she is.
You might even say she was in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. And
yes, no one saw that coming.
I'll say this too, to build on something Mike was just saying. You know, some of the cast have been out there doing interviews, doing like AMAs on Reddit and stuff. And look, it's very clear to me, at least from what I've seen and read from them, that at least many of the core cast are Star Trek fans. Like they wanted to make a good thing, right? Like they wanted to, they were excited to be involved in the Star Trek universe in whatever shape that took, and were put in this project. And you know, as far as performances go, like we can get into the nitty gritty. I lay most of the blame for the lack of sort of Star Trek feel, and for some of the generic sci-fi schlocky stuff that we get in it on the creative team behind it. I feel bad saying that because it's like some of the creative team behind Discovery, and I have some respect for what they've done on that series, but I think the writing and I think there were many elements on the creative side that just fell short of the mark of making a memorable Star Trek experience.
Fair. Shall we jump into the characters of this movie? We've been talking about Michelle Yeoh a little bit, but there's other folks in this cast that I found really interesting. Sam Richardson plays Quasi, the chameleoid, which was a species introduced in the Undiscovered Country. I like Sam Richardson, so I like this character, and it seemed pretty fitting for the universe that we're in. Craig, how'd you like these characters?
So I'm struggling to remember most of them. I couldn't assign names to who they were. There was the guy that was frozen during the eugenics wars, because of course there is. We can't ever let go of that, can we?
Oh, I want to talk about him for a second, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, there's the Men in Black alien driving a robot.
Right.
Yeah,
there's that guy. He's insufferable. There's Rachel Garrett, who could be called anyone, and she could be anyone. I actually think a more interesting twist would be if it turns out she was just a different Rachel Garrett, because Starfleet's a big organization and there might just be more than one of them. That would be
Sure.
at least something.
Just a common name.
No relation.
Yeah, but she was nothing. I remember when she was in Arrow, she was the brunette version of Felicity in a few episodes.
Yeah, she was in
Arrow.
Hannibal too. I've seen her in work. I've enjoyed her in other roles.
Yeah, she's in The Magicians.
Yes, so she's in a lot of Canadian productions, basically. Yeah. So her character trait was she's Starfleet, and she likes to not be by the book. I mean, I'm not saying that Rachel Garrett was a deep character when we had her in Yesterday's Enterprise. She's in 2 scenes, then she dies. There's not an awful lot of room for characterization there. But if you're going to reference something, then at least reference it meaningfully. It's just a name. It doesn't mean anything. So,
and also, if you're going to make her a character who, as Star Trek fans, we know that she meets a heroic end, I felt almost insulted on her behalf by some of the catastrophically stupid lines she was given on occasion. Yeah. I just I felt for her because she's a good performer, and in theory this is a character that I could be excited to learn a little bit more about, and instead I came away with a pretty negative impression.
Yeah, but if her name was Melissa, it would have made zero difference. It would have been the same thing, wouldn't it? So,
Uh-huh.
who else is even there? There was the Delton that dies pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, the Delton.
Yeah.
This is a spoiler alert, guys. You know, we're
Yeah,
talking
well,
spoilers.
We're already in there.
Yeah.
There's
We're already in
there's the
spoilers.
Borg cosplayer guy. That's all I remember about him.
Yeah.
He's just he
Zeb.
looks like he's at a Star Trek convention dressed as a Borg. That's what he looks like. And he has a drill in his arm that only seems to exist so it can be used on himself. So yeah. These characters did nothing for me. They were, I wrote in my review that they are a teenage boy's version of edgy, a 13-year-old boy's version of edgy.
It felt like they were all plucked from a variety of different franchises. Yes, some of them are recognizable Star Trek aliens that I've seen in the past, like the Delton. I thought it was a little bit interesting to see some of the effect that Deltons have be visualized and dramatized in a way that's only kind of vaguely referenced to in the motion picture. But, she's there and then she's gone pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be contrarian. I loved Rachel Garrett. I just thought Casey Roll was extremely charming, and I yes, the lines were bad. Chaos is my friend with benefits. Oh my gosh, what a weird line. It still made me laugh. I was like, this is a weird way to think about it. But cool.
Well,
whatever.
It's a very 20th century way to think. I mean, like it felt like so many of her lines were so clearly written by a writer who exists in the 20th century, and I look,
not even the 21st century.
Not even the 21st.
That can work for a lot of people, but like I just, for me, it just, in addition to the lines that make her, like, I want to like the Rachel Garrett character. So when they make her say something really, really dumb, it's like you're doing a disservice to this character and the actor. That's the thing that I have an issue with, is you're deliberately undercutting both this capable performer and this cool piece of Star Trek lore that is now being reduced to this lowest common denominator, pop culture referencing, like a Star Trek character that says whatevs. I mean, like, it's, I don't know. It's probably a thing where a lot of us wouldn't be complaining about it as much if all of the other things about this movie worked. And instead it's just a part of the problem.
Fair.
It's Gen Z TikTok language, like calling her a chaos goblin and stuff. It doesn't feel like it belongs.
That felt really out of nowhere. Just like that. That's nothing. That's just a phrase that kids say on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing that to me crystallized the problem that I had with the Rachel Garrett characterization is, there's a line where they're all standing around talking about the doomsday weapon that they've now found out about that they have to go get. And she says, like, but that's impossible. It's from another universe. And she says it standing in front of Mira Georgiou. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that perfectly encapsulates the lack of thought that went into the writing here. She's standing in front of this character from another universe and expressing disbelief that this weapon could have come from the very same universe. I just, like, she's not that dumb. She isn't.
Are we meant to know that information, though?
Well, the briefing tells you, yeah. So
everyone knows, yeah.
Okay.
It's like they literally are briefed on
that.
this is Philippa Georgiou. This is what you need to know about her. This is her background. And so
the
when
Call
she
of Duty
comes at it,
briefing at the start,
It really was. Yo,
there was no one on set to say, "Hey, wait a minute." Like the lack of care that demonstrates to me, it's like, if you guys don't care about making a good movie, why should I care about watching it?
Oh. Well, and confession time with my attention span issues. I missed that, so thanks for bringing that to my attention. It took me 5 watches to actually watch the whole movie.
You've seen this 5 times.
Because I kept falling asleep in the middle, like
which is maybe a review in its own right.
Something.
Well, now for me, that probably shouldn't be a review because I'm really good at sleeping through movies, but my mind would wander Like, and I would, and then a cat would sit on me, and then I'm just done for at that point. So, yeah, it took me 5 watches before I actually saw the whole thing. So I assumed I've missed some details in the middle, but that's a good catch, Ian. I hadn't made that connection that yes, they did explicitly say Georgiou's from the mirror universe in there, and then she's like, "Hey, how this is possible? This is from another universe." So
I sort of liked okay, so it's a heist movie, right? That's basically
Yeah.
what it comes down
basically,
to.
Kind of.
sci-fi
Yeah.
heist.
And I don't know if anyone here is also a big fan of Rick and Morty, but they have a whole episode where they kind of tear apart the heist movie tropes. And it's a whole thing where it's like, you got to get the team together. And then there's the big plotting montage. And then there's the big double cross and all this stuff. So the whole time in the back of my head, I'm just kind of like chuckling at this setup. The entire act 1 of like, normally you have all your characters coming together and you have some sort of introduction of those characters, like even if it's a lightweight one. But this movie just drops you into them getting together and already being on a mission. And it seems like nobody has any care or concern for what it is they're doing. They just get this Call of Duty Modern Warfare briefing at the very beginning of the film, which in a video game works great because as a player, you're like, what the hell am I doing? I just want to play a game. I just paid $80 for this. Drop me in, man. I'm ready to shoot some Nazis. Then, that works. But for a movie event, it was really disorienting to be like, just talked at and briefed by this control computer voice. We find out who it is later. And it's just an awkward setup. And Craig, you nailed it. It's a pilot. The whole act 1 feels like episodes 1 through 3 with so much left on the cutting room floor. I mean, you've got all this stuff happening supposedly outside of Federation space. And, the best part of act 1 is just looking at all the familiar aliens. It's not even the story. I felt like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the screen. Like when they had the seashell alien from Star Trek Beyond, I was like, oh. And obviously, of course, the Delton coming back as a character, don't even know her name. But yeah, Mel, thank you. Ian, you're right. Like it was cool to see some of like the visual indication of what their species is like on screen. In the motion picture, we get virtually nothing, other than some longing stares. But this is more like in your face, seductive. And I thought it would have been fun to have that character along for more of the ride. So when she was axed, like within the first 20 minutes, I don't know about you guys, but I knew that this movie wasn't going to be anything like, anything above a 5.
Yeah, expectations were tempered. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, Craig, I mentioned I wanted to talk about that augment guy. Can you guys remember his name? I don't. I'm sorry.
Zeph.
No, that was the Borg.
No, Zeph
guy.
was the mech.
Oh, the augment guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I in my brain, he's Common. He looks like Common.
Yes. He's Wish.com Common.
Omari Hardwick's character. I remember the actor's name.
Yeah.
Okay, hold please.
But I kind of like that, and I felt like there was something there, especially when him and Georgiou were kind of talking about their upbringing a little bit, and how it's like they clearly had to do brutal things to survive, and that's how they got to where they are today. In Georgiou's case, obviously those brutal things are a little bit different, but it would have been, I think, interesting to explore his story over the course of a TV series. We don't know too much about the augment history, and they very clearly differentiated him from being a part of Khan's cohort. So I think there was some space to do something interesting there with that general storyline that's always been threaded in Star Trek. But again, this was not the film nor media content for that sort of sophisticated breakdown.
Alok Sahar
Alok.
is his name.
Thank you. Alok.
Did he have to be from the eugenics wars, though? Because, well, I mean, I talk about it all the time, but I'm really sick
How
of...
else would you know this is a Star Trek story?
Yeah.
Yeah, but could he not have just been from some colony where it was a bit tough growing up? Would that not have accomplished exactly the same thing? They just
Also,
can't stop themselves from referencing Wrath of Khan. They cannot stop themselves.
it's
It was,
also fine for him to be genetically modified. He can say, like, that's why I don't operate like in the Federation or
yeah,
in Starfleet per se. That's why I have to be relegated to this Black Ops unit, is
yeah,
because they won't accept me in regular Starfleet. Like, that could be an interesting component of his story, but we
yeah,
get nothing.
yeah. Yeah, it's just yeah, they just can't stop themselves. My friend was round watching it, so we watched it together after he fixed my PlayStation, but that's another story. But yeah, and once he said it's like,
Is
oh,
he still your friend? You made him fix your PlayStation and watch this?
well, he wanted to see it, you know. He was happy he got
He
to
was
see it
asking
early.
for it.
Yeah. So but it was when the augment thing came up, when he started talking about that, I audibly was like, oh, for sake.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just because I'm so sick of it. I'm just so sick of it. Just let it go. You
Yeah.
can't, like, every whiteboard in every writer's room in the Star Trek creative rooms now should just have Wrath of Khan crossed out. Like, you're not allowed to go near it. You can't reference it anymore. There's nothing left to mine from that film. Leave it. Come up with something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I also like, I just dropped a picture in the chat as a reference, but the whole time I kept thinking, like, man, this is such like a knockoff Klingon style with this plastic cardboard gold silver shield over the black clothing. His whole wardrobe, I was like, you know, the dude loves Klingons. Like, if you scroll through images, like related images on Google to this one, everything he wears, you know, if you just put the Klingon makeup on him, it would have been perfect.
Or it's, well, at that era, you may not even need Klingon makeup.
But that was going to be my guess before they started talking about him as an augment, was that he was going to be like, you know, similar to Ash Tyler, how he got like body modded, you know, and I feel like there might have been some space there. The only reason I bring that up is because if you listen to the dialogue, which it's hard, I know, listening to some of this dialogue, but it's very clear where they came in to do reshoots and do ADR over the top of characters looking away from the screen, away from the camera. So things were changed in mid-flow. Like, they clearly had big changes to the script occurring while they were in the editing room.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if that character was originally supposed to be Ash Tyler, and they just quickly threw something together to have him
Could have been.
to change him. Maybe Shazad Latif looked at the script and thought, no. And then
he's like, I had enough of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that would have made this better per se.
No.
But yeah.
But could it have made it worse?
Good question. That remains for the internet to determine. Ian, was there anything else in Act 1 that, like, you know, jumped out at you? You were like, okay, that's interesting, or were you just disconnected?
No, I wouldn't say I was just disconnected, and I don't want to oversell my disdain for this project. I mean, some of it is for comedic effect. Some of it is, a lot of it is genuine disappointment. Most of it, though, is disappointment viewing it through a Star Trek lens. Like,
Sure.
did I think it was an utter catastrophe outside of it being a specifically like a Star Trek Section 31 movie? No. I mean, it doesn't rise above generic sci-fi. Like, this if it hadn't been Star Trek like branded, like, this would be an acceptable enough, like, airplane movie, TV movie of the week. Like, it's at about that standard. The problem comes from them trying to make this a Star Trek Section 31 movie, or a Star Trek movie to begin with, because it just doesn't really have that feel other than this surface level gloss of Star Trek. Here's some Star Trek references in the background. Here's some Star Trek characters it'll feel like deep cuts. You haven't seen this alien species since the 70s or the 60s. Like, here you go. That's all fine enough, but it does feel empty.
Yeah.
So for me, I was excited enough to say, hey, like a sci-fi heist, sure, that could be fun, but to just see it follow kind of beat by beat every cliche, like you said, it kind of hits it like clockwork. Nothing really genuinely surprises about this movie, either in its setup or its execution. So eh. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole thing was just such a shrug. It felt like from the people who were making it, and for me as an audience member. Like I said, I don't think the performances were catastrophically bad. I think some of the writing, some of the specific lines, did not do any of them any favors.
Yeah.
The basic setup of this. I mean, some of the tech is that they introduce is kind of neat. I like the phasing thing that they introduced, like that led to some interesting set pieces, or an interesting set piece that I hadn't seen before. So cool, great. But that said, it did feel like a TV production a bit too often. It felt very set and volume confined, and yeah, they're just I don't even remember your original question now, man. I feel
No,
like I'm
it's
just
all good.
rambling
It's
about
all
how
good.
this was kind of just sort of okay if it didn't have a Star Trek veneer on it.
You
See, I think outside of that, it's kind of inept. I think it's an inept sci-fi action movie because, well, if you look
It's
at
not good. I want to be very clear, but
yeah,
I don't think it's. I think it's a catastrophic Star Trek movie. I think it's just a merely blandly okay
mm.
sci-fi 90-minute adventure film.
See, I thought the action sequences were really badly directed and edited. That chase
They're
one
not
where they're
good.
on that sled or whatever they were on, it was like I can't make out a single thing that's going on here. So for me, it doesn't even have the excuse of, well, at least the action's decent when you get to it, because it isn't. And
sure.
Michelle Yeoh's martial arts ability is poorly shown because they do that stupid rapid cutting thing, so you
Yeah.
don't actually see her do anything half the time.
Even the one sort of space kind of quote unquote battle sequence that we get feels oddly narrowly confined. Like you don't get,
Yeah.
you're in space, right? It's the only section of this movie, it's the only action set piece that takes place in space, and yet it doesn't feel like you're in this wide open, now we're in space. We're finally opening up the scope of this project. We've been confined to all these sets, we've been planetarily confined, we've been on a space station, now we're in space, and it still feels like this narrowly confined to a volume, or to it feels like a project that was designed wholly for a TV screen or for a phone screen. And I get that that is how most people are consuming it, so maybe this shouldn't be a problem that I have. But this is a movie. It should feel like a movie. I feel
So,
like I'm going crazy when I watch some of these streaming movies, and they just feel like not even exceptional TV. They
right.
just feel like ordinary TV.
Right. I mean, they're basically writing movies for TV, but TV is shot so differently than an actual film because of the aspect ratios and lengths. But there's also distances. You know, when you sit on a couch in front of a TV, you're a couple feet from it. You know, a big screen, you're like, wow, look at all this action happening over there. So it's totally different mediums. But Ian, Ian, you said something a little bit earlier about this movie being so difficult to consume, partially because of the Star Trek universe that we're in. So I want to address a little bit of the elephant in the room here, because the main character of this movie is Philippa Georgiou, the mirror universe version of Philippa Georgiou, who is a brutal freaking tyrant. And part of the issue that I have, that I think a lot of fans have, and when I go online and I see other commentary from other fans, it all lines up. It's like, they want us to care about this character. You know, she's given quippy lines, you know, she's talking about how she turned over a new leaf, you know, she's got a conscience now. Oh, how much of a problem is having a conscience? But, you know, our introduction to this character in this movie is as a child killing her family to lead a brutal empire and having to subjugate her one-time lover at some point when they were kids, and her lover saying like, oh, you know, you didn't have to rule the empire this way. Like, everything we know about the mirror universe is that it's absolutely a brutal place. It's the mirror opposite. They're evil for the sake of being evil. Why is she developing a conscience from being inside our universe? We have never truly properly explored that. You know, there was never any dialogue in Discovery that really cemented the fact that this Philippa Georgiou has genuinely turned over a new leaf. And that's made plain and evident by Philippa Georgiou absconding and taking over this casino starbase in the middle of nowhere, outside of Federation space or what have you, and just being a bad person while existing. I don't know. There's a lot that doesn't make sense with that. And the show, the movie wants us to care. They want us to be like, yeah, let's root for her. But this is a terrible person we're rooting for. And that's like, there's very little redeeming quality to the actual character, other than I enjoy watching Michelle Yeoh and I like Philippa Georgiou, but this like mirror universe character development arc that you're leaving in her background and just not addressing, that would be like hanging out with Hitler and laughing at his jokes because he's kind of a clown, you know? And there's something happening in today's culture right freaking now where you have some loser who's doing actual Nazi salutes on stage because he's a personality, because he's quippy, because he says funny things. I don't like that Star Trek is going down that road of normalizing a bad person just for the ratings, giving them funny comments and funny lines just because the actor is well loved and huge out in China and they want to capture that fan base. I have a real problem with where we are as a culture right now and highlighting a character that is that bad. I'm going to stop there because I see you guys got things to say.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
So I think that's a really good take on that, Mike. I will argue just a little bit that I think in Terra Firma 1 and 2, we see that the Philippa Georgiou that we've come to know, the Mirror Universe one, is softer than the Terran Empire would prefer her to be. And I think we still see a glimmer of it. There is one line that I think might be the only real redeeming piece of dialogue in the entire film. She says, "There are no benevolent dictators." And my God, do we need to learn that hard?
That's fair.
If anybody takes anything else away from the film, please take that. But and because she says that, I think like she's not totally that evil empire person anymore, because she's seen that error, but also hasn't done the work in therapy to figure out how to not be that way.
Yeah.
So that one bit of dialogue I think is really important. But you know, just to echo everything you guys have said, this is not a Star Trek movie, and frankly, I'm not even sure that it's a good Section 31 story, because to me, this doesn't even have the political intrigue or darkness that I would expect from like a DS9 or even an Enterprise Section 31 story.
Yeah.
This just it just feels like a sci-fi action movie, and for that, I'm not willing to call it a Star Trek movie.
And the whole point of Section 31 is that it sucks. Like, right? Like,
yes.
It's like every time that it's come up before in Star Trek storytelling, it's not that, hey, look, there's this cool Black Ops organization. It's, oh my God, there's this thing inside the Federation, inside Starfleet that does this. It's like a cancer. Like,
it should not exist within Star Trek. And I totally agree. I just like I have issues with Section 31 even existing within the Star Trek universe, because it shouldn't. It is the antithesis. That's the word I'm trying to use. Need more coffee. It's the antithesis of what the Federation stands for. Like, we don't have to be underhanded. We can be open and charitable and do these things because they're good and right, not because, oh, we can't have the good without doing, the dirty work. That should not exist within the Star Trek universe.
Well, I definitely have thoughts on the Section 31 of it all, but to circle back to the whole Georgiou is a brutal tyrant who has killed billions of people, literally. Like, personally, she has been responsible for billions of deaths, and we're supposed to root for her as our main character in this movie or show or whatever it wants to be. And yeah, those Discovery episodes you were talking about, basically, even the Guardian of Forever said, yeah, she's not quite as bad as she was before, so we'll send her back somewhere where she can have a chance to do something. And it's all very flimsy, but I found myself thinking about this because another show that I love, Doctor Who, they did a storyline where they explored redeeming the Master to some degree. And the Master is easily as bad as Giorgio is. He doesn't care about other people. He/she depends on the regeneration, but they don't care about other people. They will do anything. They will kill however many people it takes to service their plan. But when Doctor Who tried to do the redemption thing, I was kind of up for it. And I was thinking about, well, what makes this different, and why was I happy to accept it in Doctor Who, and why was I not happy to accept it here? But I think in Doctor Who, it comes down to the quality of the material. So what you had was that Stephen Moffat developed the character to the point where they wanted to be redeemed. They started to feel sorry for all the stuff that they'd done, so they wanted to have a go at redemption. And you kind of know that maybe in the next regeneration they won't be up for redeeming themselves after that. So it's a fun thing to explore for a little while, as in, is it possible for this character to be redeemed? I think in this, we're just supposed to accept that she has been somewhat redeemed to some degree, but I don't see any evidence of that. Even at the end, she jokes about, I could turn on you at any moment, or whatever she says at the end. And it's like, well, yeah, I believe that. I'm not convinced this is a joke. I think it's a legitimate warning. She might just get bored one night and kill you all. That could happen. It's, but it also makes it impossible for me to invest in her. It's like, oh, you did some bad stuff in your past. It's all your past is bad stuff. It's, why am I supposed to feel upset about this particular one? It's like, you created a weapon of mass destruction because you didn't want to be overthrown, and now it's threatening to do the thing it was designed for. Okay, whatever. That's I
mean, it might as well have been called the MacGuffin device.
100%.
I mean, add it to the list of all the doomsday weapons we have in Star Trek now. It's the, if you turn left at the evil computers, you'll find them all in storage. If you reach the frozen corpses of previous Starfleet officers, you've gone too far. You need to turn back.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It's just another doomsday weapon. It's, oh God, the universe is at stake again. I'm bored. I'm
and
sick of this plot.
There's so many ways you could tell, like if you did really want to have the Section 31 concept also be about how Jojo is redeemed as a character, like there are ways you could try and tell that story in a sort of more organic, natural way. Maybe she gets involved with Section 31 and she starts to get turned off by their methods, and that causes her to reflect and change, like anything. But instead it's all delivered via dialogue, and it's like you said, it's all these quippy, almost jokey references to the fact that, like, she's a mass murderer. All these other, heist films where criminals get together and they do a job, or, even in the sci-fi realm, like Guardians of the Galaxy, or in the comics like Suicide Squad, whatever you want to look at, whatever example of ragtag, rough bunch of characters, arguably villainous, get together for a job, none of them is a mass murderer, right? Like, they are rapscallions and scoundrels. They aren't mass murderers. They're all variations on the sort of, I don't know, like Han Solo archetype. And you get a little variation on either side of that, and there you've got your crew. And it's just too much. I think it's just too much for the small amount of work that they've done to redeem this character thus far, to have us just invest fully in her as a character, other than us just being like, well, I like Michelle Yeoh and she's great.
Although
like that only gets you so far.
I say my girl crush on Michelle Yeoh is overriding a lot of this. So.
And it's not it's not a slight on her. It's just that again, just like with the Rachel Garrett character, it's like this is not a slight on the actor or even
Oh.
the concept of the character broadly. It's just that what you're doing with them, the things you're having them do on a script level are just they're not working.
Yeah.
They're just not working.
Yeah. Act 2, moving on here, is a little better, I thought, at raising the stakes than Act 1 was with the setup. Act 2, if you want to think about it, it's like episodes 4 through 7, if this were going to be a series. Again, so much left out of the story. You could just tell that they were like splicing scenes together from what they had filmed and leaving all the good bits out just so they can move on with the story. It was in Act 2 I started hearing like competing themes, like the soundtrack would be upbeat adventure and they would be discussing some really super serious, talking about the MacGuffin device. And there was also a point, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you had Alexander Courage's original theme playing at one point, and it's just a shot of Giorgio and Alok talking to each other. And it's like, was this supposed to be the end of an episode before the credits roll and then the next part starts? And maybe 3 or 4 minutes later, it's Act 3 is now, here's Act 3 mission briefing, whatever it was. So it lots of like weird juxtaposition things. Even Mrs. Slams, when we were watching it, she pointed out, she goes, the music doesn't line up with what's happening on the screen. And I feel very weird about that. So Act 2, I felt was a little better, but at the same time, things were still a little broken up. And this is where we get a lot of the action stuff between all the heist crew. I don't really want to talk about the Irish germ, but I know we have to. This is probably like my least favorite thing in Star Trek has ever been. Way too silly, way too campy. If you want me to take it seriously that this guy is some secret agent capable of infiltrating, massive empires and all this stuff, cool. But you're going to tell me that he doesn't know the basic fucking thing about Vulcans? Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
It was.
This is supposed to be a
yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
Like this is a cover. You are a covert agent. This is Section 31. These guys are supposed to be competent. So like you don't even know how to act like a Vulcan? Like what are you telling the audience? Like
Yeah.
what are you telling anybody by this characterization? Like what is the
Yeah.
concept here? Like you wanted to come up with this funny Men in Black style alien concept and shoved into the Star Trek universe. Like fine, I guess, but like you need to give it an extra layer of thought. Like that's what's missing from this project, it seems, on so many levels, is just that extra layer of like, let's just think just a little bit harder about like, okay, this is the decision we want to make. Well, what are the organic like out of like emergent problems that would present to us as storytellers, and how do we get out of that situation? Like there's just nothing to this character other than the inevitable betrayal and like this hyper clearly like comedic, intended to be comedic, I'll say, performance, and it's just not, there's no logic there's no logic to it. There's no internal consistency to this is a covert operative who's been on many missions and knows how to do so.
Yeah, I just think someone would have thought it would have been funny. What if we have a Vulcan that has an Irish accent and laughs a lot, and then it stopped there? That's as far as it went. But it's almost like the film wants to suggest that this team of people are somewhat useless because Giorgio makes them instantly. It's like, what are Section 31 doing here? Here's this agent, here's that agent. I've figured this out immediately. But then the rest of the film acts like they know what they're doing. So there's no coherence with that idea. I just felt like, yeah, maybe they're a new team or something, and then it's like, no, they're supposed to all be amazing. Apparently, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah. Was it in our Discord channel that somebody referred to him as the boy band Vulcan because of the the blonde highlights? I heard somebody referred to it as the boy band.
That's pretty
Vulcan
good. That's pretty
robot
good.
thingy, and I was like, yep. Who also apparently might be a leprechaun. So who,
What was Craig? Look, I know it's Irish, but can you help us Americans understand what the hell that accent was?
It was what Americans think an Irish accent is. That's what it is.
That was some real
th-
weird
It's
yeah.
the
stuff.
Lucky Charms
Yes.
leprechaun.
Yeah.
That's what he sounds like.
Yeah. Mike, I want to circle back to your mention of the score.
Yes.
So this is probably honestly my favorite Jeff Russo score. I was distracted by how cool it sounded,
Really?
not thinking about, oh, wait a minute, this is this is not matching the action on the screen. I'm like, ooh, because he has like his usual orchestral fare, but then let's give it a rock edge. Let's try to make it a little more edgy, so it's heavily percussive. Let's throw some electric guitar and some bass lines over top of this. I really liked that. That appealed to my sense of music that I enjoy. So I was kind of thinking about all of that versus, again, not really caring about what was happening on screen because I wasn't really sure what was happening.
So basically
on
what you're
screen.
saying is you liked the music so much you ignored what was happening on the screen.
Which is completely on brand for how my brain works.
I love it.
But no,
I don't remember the
I
score at all.
really enjoyed the score. I do. I like if they do a vinyl release of the score, I will definitely
Well,
pick it
it's
up.
interesting because the music, it's like there's nothing actually wrong with the music itself. It's just that
Yeah.
how they edited everything. They put happy music when it's supposed to be tense music, and they put tense music when you want something a little uplifting, or you want like the chase scene, or you want the dramatic moment. There's big, suspension chords that are supposed to build and sway, and you don't get that in those certain scenes. And because of that, it's like I don't know if you've ever seen any of those videos where people like, they'll take a really powerful scene like Star Wars, Luke, I am your father, and they'll interject like a really funny song, to be like, this is why music is so important in the background. Same thing. It's just like I didn't get the sentiment from what was happening on screen versus the music. So not to say that anything was bad, it's just like it felt like a lot of it was just recorded and meant for something, but the editors didn't know what to line up with what.
That's fair. That's fair. I will say too. Oh my gosh. Oh, the lounge singer.
Oh,
yes. I liked the lounge singer. I thought she was great.
There was a point, I don't know if you saw it, but like the fight is going through and the lounge singer is like, nope, takes her microphone and just walks off stage.
Yeah,
I was dying.
I did see that. I did not sleep through that part.
But yeah, Craig, other things in Act 2, was there anything in this sequence that you felt was a good moment in the act?
Not really. They spent an awful lot of time trying to find something to plug into something and debating who might have unplugged it.
Oh,
That took a lot of time.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's a mole, and it's funny because getting the screeners, after watching it, I got an email telling me what I'm not allowed to talk about in my review, and it's like, don't mention that there was a mole. It's like, this is a spy movie. Of course there's
Of course
why
there's a
am I not
mole.
allowed to talk about but yeah, the review.
The bigger
they left
surprise would have been no mole.
Yeah, if there wasn't one. But it was, which of these horrible people is going to betray them all? I don't know. I don't care. Probably the germ. It's probably him. And I was right.
Yeah.
And then, so I think Act 2 was where I was talking about where some of that inept action was, the big chase that was on the, whatever it was. Just, what's going on here?
On those sleds, right?
Yeah. The mystery of who's betraying them doesn't last long enough for you to even think of it as a mystery. It's like, who's betrayed us? Oh, him. Okay. Well, that took 2 minutes. Fine.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think there
nothing
needed to
really.
be a little bit more sabotage woven throughout, like leading up to it. It should have been a little bit more of a gradual build to that problem, and then it should have, the stakes should have felt a little bit higher. The mystery should have felt a little bit more compelling, and it just kind of, oh, okay, we've hit that plot point now, and now we're moving on to our action set piece that was clearly shot in a volume, and it's whatever.
You could have had a full episode of who's going to betray us in a TV show, and it might have been interesting. They probably would have tried to ape The Thing in that way if they were doing an episode out of it, and it might have been okay. I mean, you had that Deep Space, that DS9 episode where there was a changeling on board, and it could be any of them, and they rationally worked out how to sniff him out.
That sort of stuff would have been really good in a TV series, but this was not, everything getting cut out. That's my biggest issue, is so much was left out that we don't really get the full story. So we're sitting here critiquing a third of what the full story is, and that's what's also frustrating about it. But Act 3 here, the whole her one-time lover, subjugate, slave, is actually trying to take over and wants to be emperor. Everything just felt like such a cop-out, the whole reunion between them, Giorgio realizing that San is alive all this time, he didn't die from the poison. Nothing there. I know it was supposed to be emotional. They wanted us to care very much about San's evil turn, but I didn't care about any of it, partially because none of it lands in the pantheon of the Star Trek lore. It never happened, supposedly because Section 31 prevented it, but it's just hard to accept that any of this is even part of the story based on what we historically know from the Mirror Universe. Why is San saying you could have been better, we could have had everything, blah blah blah? It just doesn't track for me. The action is intercut with all these fast editing jumping points, so you don't even get to see the fights as they break out. And I thought Alok was pretty good. I liked that ending moment where they thought they were going to sacrifice themselves until they didn't. So it was what it was. I watched it.
Yeah, painfully obvious that the villain was going to be who it was as well, because we saw the flashbacks.
Yeah.
It was, oh, he won't be dead. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't wait to wait the next hour to find that out.
Mm-hmm.
And it
then-
undercuts, again, it undercuts the emotional, what little emotional journey Giorgio is given. It undercuts that because we're led to believe that this moment, this loss, was so significant for her. And then it's like, yeah, just kidding. It was actually all yet another like Terran style plot that was 20 years in the making, and now he's going to use this mass murder device, and it's like, oh, you guys just all suck. It just reinforces just how much everything about that universe and everyone in it just goddamn sucks. Like obviously we know from previous Mirror Universe stories we've seen that redemption is possible, that people aren't locked into these worst possible versions of themselves, even if they do seem at first like they might be. All of that said, though, again, look, there just isn't enough work done on that front. Like, she has such a mountain of bad juju to like overcome, like all of the ills that she's caused, all the pain, all the suffering, all the death, all of it is on her shoulders. And they're just still to this day, with as much as they have tried over the course of multiple seasons of Disco and now this film, to bring this character some sort of redemption, and it just has all fallen short for me.
The doomsday machine that somehow could destroy the galaxy, except when you detonate it in a rift between two universes, and then it just closes the rift. That's all it does.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I the doomsday device thing was so uninteresting. I don't have a single note about it.
It's going to wipe out a quadrant. But to Craig's point, like this thing is going to wipe out an entire quadrant unless we detonate it at this specific point in a quadrant. I just, what? What are we doing?
So you can fit it in your bag and it can do that. Okay.
Like I get there's a little bit of like, techno babbly mumbo jumbo and some throwaway about the ion storm convergence, and right there, right at that moment, it would just stay isolated to the ion storm. But yeah, guys, it's like, why? It felt like nothing. It just felt like another device that would have been in season 6 of Star Trek Discovery that they would have chased after the entire series, and then it would have done nothing anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and in Star Trek, these things used to be massive when they were that threatening, but I'm just not buying into something can be that destructive and be that small.
Mm,
Like the Star Trek universe is supposed to exist in some level of plausibility, and like until this modern era, they just don't have technology like that. Anytime they
Yeah,
encounter something destructive, it's always massive.
mm.
You know,
yeah,
the Doomsday
I'm
Machine,
done
for
with
example,
these.
it's huge.
Yes, a perfect example in like not too distant past, like, and that had its own like limitations too, as we discovered in that episode. But
Yeah,
like, I'm so sick of like backpack sized universe like threatening technology. Like, no, like
yeah.
stop it. Like, just it's not this like, oh, it's not cute anymore. It's not clever. It's not undercutting any sort of expectation. Now it's becoming a cliche.
Yeah.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
I think it's worth discussing the Section 31 of it all, though, because this is a Section 31 movie. And why they went for a generic action movie instead of spy thriller is beyond me. And Alex Kurtzman describing this as Star Trek's Mission Impossible is hilarious because it couldn't be
How
further
dare
from,
he?
yeah, it
How
couldn't be
dare he
further
besmirch that
from
fine
that.
franchise?
Yeah. But I think that the modern stewards of the Star Trek franchise have never understood Section 31. They have never probably even seen the episodes of Deep Space Nine they appeared in. So what you have is this just Black Ops unit that's underneath that Starfleet even recognizes and sends them on missions and stuff. They're just a known part of it, and it's not supposed to be that way. In fact, I liked the idea that in Deep Space Nine, because you had Admiral Ross, who was aware they existed and was just going to let Sloan do what he was going to do because it was going to benefit them. And I quite like the idea of this utopia can be only be maintained by people doing horrible stuff that you'll never hear about. And there's people in positions of authority that just turn their head away and pretend it's not happening because it's not blood on their hands directly. And instead, it's this: your top secret mission is this: track down this doomsday weapon. Well, you could send the Enterprise to track down a doomsday weapon. It's that important. So why do you need your Black Ops team to do that? But they're just a generic Black Ops thing. I would have liked to see a Section 31 story where it is the organization that existed in Deep Space Nine, as in no one knows they exist and they're doing stuff because they think they should be doing stuff, not because the Federation has sanctioned a mission to do it. And I was forgiving of Discovery when I thought they were heading down the route of this is a story that pushes Section 31 underground to the point where no one knows they exist, but they didn't do that. So
Right.
I just have to write it off as they've never understood Section 31. And that bothers me because if you're going to do something, please at least watch the episodes that you're riffing on, that you're pulling from.
And when it
Right.
comes to spy stuff, like Star Trek has always kind of dabbled in spy stuff, even going back to the original series. Like it's just a fun, like Cold War era type of storyline to
Yeah.
chase.
We
And
dress up and we infiltrate a culture. We do that all the time.
yeah. And it's there's space for it to be done. And to your point, it's like they just didn't watch any of those episodes that had already covered some of the spy stuff that Star Trek has done to get a sense of how spy stuff in the Trek universe could be done. I feel like there is a little bit of space to have a Section 31 and to kind of like, talk about it, not talk about it, talk about it, not talk about it. And this just wasn't it. It shouldn't be Suicide Squad. It should be more along the lines of, a little Mission Impossible.
Yeah. And explore the morality of it.
Yes,
Well,
you have to
should
talk
such a
about
thing
yes.
exist here?
Yes,
And because that's what Deep Space Nine was knocking on the door of. It's like the Federation would have collapsed decades ago if it wasn't for us, and you have to deal with that. And then, if there'd been a season 8 of Deep Space Nine after Bashir takes the organization down, maybe he starts to realize that the Federation unravels without them, or starting to unravel in places.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that.
Or Or he realizes the exact opposite, that they were full of shit because
Yeah.
they had their own selfish interests in mind. Of
Yep.
course they wanted to continue
Yeah.
to exist. Otherwise, they wouldn't continue to exist.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Um, any final thoughts on this movie streaming event?
Just that I hope that this doesn't dissuade them from doing other standalone TV movies, because
Exactly.
it's not a bad idea to tell a story that you don't need to spend 10 episodes on or put in a cinema. You know, just like Marvel were trying to do with their special presentations or whatever they were called. They abandoned that pretty quickly. But I like the idea of, let's introduce this idea in here or play around with this idea in here, where the stakes are slightly lower in terms of, you know, the bottom line, as in, if this doesn't work, we just won't do it again. But I feel like the reception to this will kill the notion of doing any other TV straight to streaming Star Trek movies, because
Yeah.
it'll be deemed that this doesn't work. It's like, no, it can work. It's just this one didn't.
Yeah. They'll take the wrong lessons from it, as they so often do.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I will say, I don't think we got to address it. Jamie Lee Curtis is Control.
Yes.
Jamie Lee Curtis is my scream queen. She's my favorite. Halloween's my favorite horror movie. So I'm just like, I want Jamie Lee Curtis in more things. So I kind of feel like that was Michelle Yeoh calling her buddy and say, hey, you want to be in my Star Trek movie?
Want to do me a favor? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Want to do me a
exactly
favor?
what it was.
You can be a
I was-
hologram, film it whenever you like. It's all
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I when the opening narration started, I was like, wait a minute. Why do I know this voice? And then once I figured it out, I flailed in excitement. It was like the most excited I got the entire movie. But I was trying to figure out, does she have like Borg implants like in her noggin?
It looked like
No, it's like with what's his name in Discovery season 2, the captain guy, the Section 31 guy.
It's like some body they kept saying like body
Yeah.
modifications, you know,
Yeah.
in when they were talking about the mech guy.
Yeah.
But that guy in season 2 of Discovery had something similar. It wasn't quite as
Okay.
much, but it was Control was controlling his body, so he was, you know,
Mhm.
that was him. I can't remember the character's name now.
So are we to believe that Control is more like an M type character versus like an evil AI like it was in Discovery season 2?
I think it's capable of being both.
Yeah.
Mm.
I would be more inclined to agree with your assessment, Ashley, that it's more of an M type character than an evil AI.
I a friend of mine suggested that, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And you know, with the short hair, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, is a nice homage to Dame Judi Dench with that. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
I
be
could-
surprised if she was a person that Control just co-opted and now controls, so has erased the identity. And just
Yeah.
again, like with that guy in Discovery season 2, I think that's
Yeah.
basically the next version of that. But you know, if she wants to be a part of the Star Trek universe, then that's kind of a shame, because she'll probably never be seen again.
Yeah, and this is me feeling bad for like Casey Roll and Sam Richardson and Jamie Lee Curtis, like who are all performers that I love and I would love to see in more Star Trek things. The sad thing is I'm not sure that we're ever going to now.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, it does feel like, had they had more interesting things to do, these are characters, the ones that last to the end, who we could have grown to want to follow the continuing adventures of. But as it stands, I think that Star Trek fan enthusiast, going back to your very initial question of who is this show for? Who is this movie for? The average Star Trek fan, I think, and certainly all the intense Star Trek fans like us, are going to look at this and say, well, that wasn't for me. So I don't really know what this isn't a Star Trek 2009 moment where we have the opportunity we had the opportunity, I don't think they took it, to bring in this wider audience of non-diehard Star Trek fans to say like, hey, look, here's a way in. in a way, like having an adventure that isn't your typical Star Trek fare, but it'll give you a little taste of the universe. It'll give you, like your little foot in the door into like the Star Trek world. And then from there, you can say, well, I'm curious to check out what else there is. As it is, I don't think any casual viewer is just going to pop this thing on and say, well, I understand Star Trek and I'd like to learn more now.
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who came in with the 2009 movie, I mean, some people would argue that Star Trek 2009 is a really great Star Wars movie. I've heard that some of my friends contend that, and I was like, that's fine, but it enticed me enough to be like, wow, I really like these characters. I want to learn more. And 6 years later, I'd literally watched every series and film by that point. And with this, like, I know nothing more about how the Federation works after I watched this movie. I don't have any idea what it's like to be on a starship and operate within the bounds of the Federation. I don't even think I've learned anything really about Section 31. I think I've just watched a sci-fi action movie.
You don't even learn anything about Starfleet. Like,
where's the iconography? I don't think we see a single delta and sig.
Yeah, exactly.
You see a delta at the very end when they activate the control.
Oh yeah,
exactly. That's it. That's my point. Like, it's all of this. Like, there's no one. Like, even the Starfleet member is out of uniform. There's no, and again, like, these might sound like little superficial things, but the fact that we never see a single starship, that we never see anyone interact with any of the iconic, I mean, like, that's the thing the 2009 movie did well, was it knew the archetypes and it knew the iconography, and it presented both, and it gave you a sense, it gave you enough of a foundation, Ashley, that you were then able to go off and explore and make sense of it all, because it had introduced those concepts. This doesn't introduce anything recognizably Star Trek in terms of theme, in terms of design, in terms of aesthetic. Nothing, nada. In terms of dialogue, it all is this, like you said, it's this very contemporary 21st century snappy, quippy sort of stuff that we expect to see in other franchises. And like, look, I know that our franchise has to continue to evolve and grow and change. I just don't think it necessarily needs super snappy contemporary of the time dialogue, because that has a way of making the show less timeless, not more.
Yeah. Well, the original series, it was, and Next Generation and so on, it was written in the scripts that you write it as if you're writing a stage play. You want it to exist for all of time. That's, you want any audience and any time to pick up on it. So you have the Shakespearean approach almost. And then, but yeah, in terms of the Star Trek iconography, they insult the Starfleet officer. She's constantly mocked for being Starfleet. It's the look at you, stuffy by the book. Let's get rid of you. It's whatever. Yeah, and her arc is about being less Starfleet. So it's this idea of the rest of this franchise. They're all losers. You don't want to contend with them.
And the one time you want Starfleet in the room is when they're torturing the big guy who had brought the doomsday device to get sold. They're torturing him on their own ship, and they conveniently leave the Starfleet officer on the comet, planet, whatever it is, so she's not even in the room to argue about the moral right for torture in an enlightened society. Like, there's no exposition, there's no explanation, there's no who is Starfleet and why.
There's no one presenting any of the themes that, like, Star Trek embodies. No one.
Yeah, she's there saying Starfleet's here to make sure that nobody commits murder, and then they continually commit murder.
Good job.
Whatever.
Good job.
Yeah. And you got promoted for this? Congratulations.
Yeah. It's a frustrating movie. It was supposed to be a TV show. It was meant to start as one, and we were supposed to get a full season. That changed over the course of several years and filming schedules. God only knows what sort of tax write-off they're getting for this. But I would say it's a solid 4 out of 10 if you take out all the Star Trek branding of it. It would be a good, B movie, like you said, Ian, like on an airplane, a good cyberpunk sci-fi flick just to put on and zone out for a little bit. But
okay, I wouldn't say good. Okay is about as high as I would go.
Fair.
I wouldn't go higher than 2 out of 10. if it were me. But
Oof.
I give it 1 star when I reviewed it. So
Oof.
1 to 2 out of 10.
Ashley, what's the final word?
4, and I think maybe 3.5. In my review, I had 3 points of things that I really liked, and then like meh on everything else.
Oh, meh.
So yeah. Mr. Nerdy Blogger called it the okayest Star Trek movie he's ever seen.
Yeah,
So
that's
Yeah,
good.
Apparently it's good if you're having trouble sleeping, though. Maybe that's
no,
maybe
I
that's who
mean,
it's for. Insomniacs that need to
yes,
sleep.
Insomniacs. Next time I have trouble sleeping, I'll just put on Section
I
31.
think if you go in with really low expectations, like by the time I actually put this on, I had heard so many terrible, terrible things that I think I was actually primed to like it a little bit more than I otherwise would have. Just sort of out of defensiveness, almost like
Yeah.
I would watch a scene and be like, well, this isn't that bad. I mean, come on. I felt myself
God damn it,
feeling
I'm gonna
that over
try
and
to
over
like
again.
it.
Well,
And then you stub your toe on something in the I keep calling it show, in the movie, and then you stub your toe again, and then by the time you're done, you're like, why did I do this? My toes are all sore. I think as a movie outside of Star Trek, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Mike and Ashley. Like I'm probably like maybe a little bit higher, maybe a 4.5. I don't know, but as a Star Trek movie, this guy's a 1.
we can say with definitive, finally, the debate has been put to rest. The worst Star Trek film is now unanimously agreed upon by the entire fan base. It's this one.
Yep.
So sorry. We love Michelle Yeoh. Honestly, you can see it on their faces. The cast had a great time. You could tell they were trying with what they had. The effort was made by those on screen, maybe not necessarily behind the screen. Folks, my name is Mike Slammer. You have been listening to We Are Starfleet. Craig McKenzie, Ashley Thomas, and Ian Buckley are with us here on this podcast. Craig, tell us a little bit about Kneel Before Blog.
Yep, so you can find me on kneelbeforeblog.co.uk, put it into Facebook, Twitter for now, Blue Sky. You can find it on those places. I review stuff, so I've reviewed this, Section 31, my 1-star review. You can read it with all the spoilers I wasn't allowed to talk about, not in there. I've done a couple other film reviews recently, and there's an attached podcast where we do monthly news roundups and deep dives into various things. I also recently interviewed an actress about Mary J. Blige inspired Lifetime movie that she's in now, and that was really cool. So you can listen to that. And then, keeping with the Star Trek theme, I can be found on socials under Nemesis4909, which wasn't a Star Trek reference initially, it was a Resident Evil reference. So there we go. That is me.
Nice. Ian, tell us a little bit about what you have working on.
Yeah, so elsewhere on the network, we are now 2 episodes into our coverage of the Apple TV Plus show Severance, which is now back for its 2nd season. That show, the podcast that covers it, is called Illumination Above All. You can find that on Blue Sky. You can find me on Blue Sky. It's just my name at Blue Sky Social. And yeah, you'll hear me popping up on other shows on the network like Movieversaries, and I just recently did a Podcast 616 episode with Ashley. So yeah, just plug my name into your search bar and you'll hear me elsewhere on the network.
Nice. Ashley, the nerdy blogger.
Yeah, so I am mostly on Mastodon, Blue Sky, and I still have a Facebook page, though I think I'm going to slowly phase that out. At The Nerdy Blogger, you can read my words on my blog, nerdyblogging.wordpress.com. You can also read my words on fangirlish.com, where I write about film and television, mostly Star Trek. So my review is there as well. You can also hear me here on the network on Podcast 616, talking all things Marvel. And yeah, that's and then also the Video Store Podcast, videostorepodcast.com, where I talk about movies I like.
Amazing. Once again, folks, my name is Mike Slammer, and this is year 5 for our podcast. So if you've been listening to us this whole time, big shout out. Thank you so much for being a long-time listener. If you're a first-time listener, thank you for finding us, and I hope you have found some value, some interesting tidbits of information, maybe even a couple of laughs. Feel free to follow us. We are Starfleet on Blue Sky and Instagram. And we are a part of the Film Stories network of podcasts. So all those other shows that you heard us talk about here, Podcast 616, Movieversaries, Illumination, Before All, that is here on Film Stories Network. Give us a like, a subscribe, and if you're so inclined, vote for us as a 5-star podcast. Thank you all. Live long and prosper.